Welcome to the Purpose Legal podcast. At Purpose Legal, we're redefining the way legal teams tackle challenges, offering solutions that are efficient, client-focused, and powered by advanced technologies. Join us as we dive into the topics that are shaping the legal industry today, sharing insights, strategies, and thought leadership to help you navigate complexity and achieve your goals. Let's get started.
Jim Sullivan, founder of eDiscovery AI. Happy to have a chance to talk with you a little bit about a new offering.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. Glad to be back.
You know, we've got lots of partners, and obviously we love working with a lot of our partners. I do want to share just one story that relates specifically to the offering we're talking about today. You know, you were kind enough to show me this offering, Insight ECI, the week before Legal Week. Here we are a couple of weeks following that, and just this week we've started actually running client data through Insight ECI, and you know, I can count on certainly one hand the number of times that I saw technology for the first time at Legal Week and was running it on client data within the weeks following that and getting good results, frankly. So congratulations on that. Fantastic stuff.
No, that's obviously awesome to hear. And it's super exciting when clients start running data through, start seeing the actual results. As we develop tools, it takes a lot of time to get from the whiteboard to production, and now is the exciting part. So yeah, love to hear it. Love every time we see a new client running a job through. It's exciting. It's fun.
Fantastic. And that fast engagement is obviously an indicator that you've hit on a business need that is real. Could you just give me a little bit of a detail around the business need that you were targeting with Insight ECI?
Right. And I'd say the business need that we really saw is kind of a lower cost option of using large language models. One of the complaints we still heard here is that, the cost of using generative AI is still higher than what people are used to with some other tools. And so our Insight ECI tool brings people in at a much lower price point for the purpose of kind of an early case assessment situation where you're trying to get insights into your data, understand a large data set, identify what could potentially be relevant early on in your case, and, get a narrative that describes a little bit about what it's able to find. So, I'd say that the market that we've kind of targeted at this point is definitely that, the traditional early case analysis, where earlier on in the case, and definitely trying to provide as much insight as we can at a much lower price point, because the market really does expect that lower price in ECA tool than they would with the review tool, and we wanted to make sure that we were meeting that expectation.
Very good. So while we're on that topic of providing a lower price point, and I think that's fantastic. What can you share with us about the design and the way you're utilizing technology that allows you to hit that lower target?
I will say that it is a lot more fun than some of our other tools we've made that are just a little bit more straightforward. This was a much more creative approach. I've always loved to solve problems, and when our President Tom came by and said, "This is what we need," I was excited to see how we could get there, because it is just a puzzle of, here are different models that are available, here are the costs of each model, here's the token limits, here's the context windows, and trying to put that all in, and Tom's always come saying, "This is the price you got to hit, so make a way to make that work," and that's the problem I like to have.
I like how you did that, Jim. You were excited to solve the problem, but you didn't really tell us how you solved the problem, and nor was I really expecting you to. Well, so it's interesting, the use case that you described with early case assessment, diving in, understanding your data quickly, getting an idea what's relevant in the case. That's fantastic, and certainly I expect our clients will use that. I will say that the use cases we've been finding out of the gate have been a little bit different. They've been things like deposition prep. They've been things like analyzing our own productions that are already out the door and figuring out how we can find, key documents within those. Just wondering if you've seen similar, and if you've seen other use cases that maybe weren't what you were originally targeting.
The depo prep thing has come up, and it's already kind of driven us down. I don't want to spoil too many future surprises, but working in that direction to give us more information that would accomplish exactly that goal is on a roadmap. I would say that the two biggest cases are still going to be investigations and reviewing third-party productions. So, trying to kind of get to the meat of the data set on a large set of data, trying to just get to what's important much faster. And there's something about, there's two things that really I feel like make this different. The first of all, the visuals are definitely a piece that I'm not as used to. I'm a guy that does everything I do in Notepad. I don't even, Word is too fancy for me, right? So, having nice dynamic, graphs and charts and showing you things visually, I think it's cool, and it's not something that I would say is targeted towards people like me, but I think that it's something that is makes it a lot easier for people to understand the data, and then that narrative allowing them to really just read in natural language a story about what's going on. And those pieces, I feel like, we have seen other tools with great visuals, so I'm not going to even pretend that that's the first time that we've done that, though it's my new to me. The narrative, I think, is adding a new piece that, frankly, I do think we're going to see a lot more of that, where now AI is going to, it already has some of the explanations and decisions and things like that, but AI is going to be able to explain to people in natural language information that they might have had to read in a spreadsheet or a CSV file in the past.
Yeah, this isn't necessarily the format that we're showing the visualizations within Insight ECI, but I will just the second that the addition of the visualizations that enable you to sort of dig in on the different relevant topics and the not relevant topics and sort of explore that a little bit, and as well as some of the other visualizations that are inherent in each Insight ECI job are really pretty insightful and cool stuff. So excited to see that. So the first time I saw Insight ECI, and as we've talked and sort of seen the level of recall that we get in finding relevant documents, there's an inclination to wonder about using it for use cases that we haven't even talked about today, like first pass review, instead of sort of the more traditional eDiscovery AI technology. If you wouldn't mind sort of, and I know we've talked about the possibility of actually doing that, but just what would be some of the pitfalls? What are the differences between the two technologies, and when might you actually consider doing that?
Right. And I'll say that's not a use case that we're fully supporting at this time, but we're also don't have a really way of limiting the way people use our tools, and we don't intend to. But the real difference is ECI is it's casting a broad net across a data set. So, the recall is fantastic. We are getting, incredible scores. We're seeing 95, 98, 99% recall, but it's a sacrificing precision, just like you would expect with any, ECA tool or a tool that you're going to use for a, culling method. Is you are going to be sacrificing the precision. It's going to be casting a broad net. It's going to be similar to, when you would use tar on a data set and you would have a high recall and lower precision, where you're also not going to get your issues broken down as cleanly. You are going to get buckets of different types of documents. But, when I consider kind of like a review with AI, we're really trying to hit that target really directly. Both recall and precision are important. And with ECI, we're kind of casting a net. So we just kind of have to be close, right? We are seeing that the coolest thing for me is that, I always want to make it as easy for the end user as possible, because if it's too hard, people won't use it. And that's one of the other things we learned with TAR, of the difficulties in training document sets, even 5,000 documents. It sounds like, training 5,000 documents is easy. Everyone always said, oh yeah, I'll hammer that out this weekend. It's like, you don't realize that that's, 50 hours of work at $100 an hour. And that's a lot of time. But so the really cool thing about ECI is, when you're entering the information in the background of your case, you just have to kind of sort of be in the ballpark of what you need. We're seeing a lot of, because we're basically casting a net over the relevant material, it's very forgiving, and you don't have to provide a lot of input. You just have to say generally, what the case is about, what the allegations are, who the parties are, what's important, and it will do all the, it'll take care of all the rest. So, being able to not have to be as precise as, we aren't doing a lot of rounds of iteration like we are with relevance, where you need to really be, really precise with every word you use. It's because it's casting that net, it is going to allow you to be broader. It's going to be much more forgiving. It's going to help find things you didn't find. But That's the real difference. It's really the difference between a very high precision and a high recall with a lower precision. But I think the other thing is use cases matter, because some cases finding those individual issues don't matter as much as some others. So we'll see. I'm always interested in how people end up using the technology, because I know that what we intend to use to be is oftentimes not what it's good at. So if this can help do your laundry, it should use it to do your laundry.
Well, the good news here is I think it is good at what you intended it to be good at. And just to kind of dig in on a couple of things that you said, one, I think that it doesn't offer the document by document sort of rationale and considerations that you would see with the relevance review. And that rationale, that document by document analysis, really is very helpful in refining your prompt and refining that net. So in those use cases where you need that, there's definitely value there. And then you also hit on the issues coding. It's one of the first things I noted is, you don't, with the ECI tool, it gives you a fantastic set of topics to look at, but you're not determining those topics, or you're not able to sort of create buckets that the technology actually assigns the documents to based on their content. So it gives you a little bit less control with the issues and the topics that come out of the review. And that's just something to keep in mind. As you say, when you're thinking of use cases, I found that important to think about. So just sort of one other question about Insight ECI specifically, and that is, as we've worked with clients regarding the I'll call them the previous and current still iterations of the eDiscovery AI technology, they've been really pleased with the attention to security, data protection, and the sort of commitments that you all make in that regard. Any of that change with Insight ECI?
The only real change with Insight ECI is the data retention. We've always prided ourselves in never retaining any data. Frankly, it takes a lot of the liability off of us. So I'm very, very happy to, that delete button is about as, my favorite. But the only one difference we have right now is that we will retain the statistics, so you can see those graphs for a longer period of time. We're defaulting to maintain it for 30 days, but we can change that based on any client's need. But so we're always focused on security. We're never using any client data to train any models. We know that there's certain things that just cannot be done, and we certainly would never consider doing them. But the only real difference on this one is that we will retain the statistics for your project for 30 days by default, and no more. And we won't retain that. We're still not retaining any client data. All of the data is going to remain, in relativity for most users or other platforms if they are using it. But I do want to, I always want to make sure that people understand exactly what we are keeping. And, up to this point, we've never retained anything ever. And now we're retaining the statistics required to keep the graphs. It really is just so we can keep those graphs up so you can continue to see them. And we are working on ways to getting that data into, relativity and other platforms, so then we aren't retaining it any longer. I really have, always had a high interest in just not being responsible for, maintaining anyone's data. And frankly, it's just selfish, because we know these projects go on for years. And the second you're responsible for retaining someone's data, like you're committing to retaining that for, a decade or more. And that's just not what we're in the business of doing. But yeah, all the same safeguards, all the same concerns around using large language models, not using client data to train a model, never having any data that goes outside of our ecosystem, not sending data to any third parties, not being subject to, Azure's content filters and things like that, all apply to here. Everything's just as important. And just, we want to make sure people know that one difference.
Perfect. And just to clarify, because I think I want to be sure we leave the right impression, all of the results of Insight ECI are actually going back to relativity today. Like
Yes.
So none of that goes away in 30 days. It's just currently the statistics, visualizations, things like that may
Right.
sort of.
And I mean, again, as the notepad guy, if you don't want the graphs, we don't have to retain it. Like that's the piece too. And it really is, the only thing we're doing is we're providing clean visuals that you can use to go through your data. And all of the rest of the pieces are basically, it's like we send them back to you in whatever platform you're using, and you can, you retain it for as long as you want. And now it's really fully in your control, which that's what everyone wants. They want to be the ones hosting the data, retaining it, and making sure that, it's not out there in a place they don't know.
Fantastic, Jim. Thanks a lot. So before I let you go, I want to ask you one question, and it's off topic. We're shifting gears now. I'm interested whenever I talk to someone like yourself involved in technology and AI and applying it to business needs. I'm interested in what's cool that you see. So I'll give you an example. One of the other technologies I've seen today that I think is fantastically cool is from a partner, some folks that we both know. The guys over at Tackle AI have some really cool image analysis, advanced AI enabled text. The right word isn't extraction, it's more like conversion, where looking at and that may not even be the right word, Jim, you'll probably tell me what the right word is, but looking at images, old documents, handwriting, able to foreign language handwriting, looking at that, converting it to text, converting it to English text. And not only that, but isolating specific pieces of a page and determining what kind of content is on that portion of the page and using the best AI for that specific content. Things like mathematical calculations, and it's just really impressive stuff. And so that's my what's cool. I'm interested in sort of what your what's cool it would be.
No, and I mean, I'll start by agreeing. Absolutely. The moment that we could recognize and review handwriting and extract from handwriting, I mean, I've been gushing about that for a long time because, and it just comes down to large language models. They are crazy and they continue to get better and better. And I mean, what's cool for me is the new models. So, yesterday, I believe, OpenAI came out with their version 4.1, and it has 3 different versions. And, and they can't, I think we're up to 15 different options now for different things and different things to do. And so as a guy who's trying to build something where, Tom comes around and says, I need, this is the tool that people are asking for. This is the price point we need to hit. Now, my toolbox is getting a lot bigger and there's a lot more options available, and they can do things like I can throw in an image and it can review it natively and not have to even translate it. And and I can throw in foreign language documents into different things. And every model is good at different things, not as good at different things, have different context ones, has pricing that matters, and being able to combine those and to try to solve different problems. It just is, you're getting a lot more tools and they can all do a lot more things, and it's just going to lead to a lot better solutions. We're going to have, and I've seen a lot of other companies that are coming out with cool stuff too. And I definitely don't think that, we are, the only ones out here doing this. And I'd love seeing what other people are doing, because I sit around and I think about ways to solve different problems all day. And when I walk around Legal Week and I see how other people did it, it's, there's a lot of oh, that's something I thought about. And I wonder how they'd solve this piece of that problem, or that's something I haven't thought about and didn't even, realize was an option. But now that I see it, I can see kind of how those avenues might go. So I really just think that the number of tools that are coming out available, that different large language models and how their strengths and weaknesses on each of them is just giving us more ability to solve problems that I always say, if I could go back to when I was in the industry in 2018 and I was using predictive coding, and I would have, you would have told me that these things were going to be possible in, the time period that we're talking, I would not believe you. Without, I would have said in 30 years, maybe, but not in. And there was always a joke where one of the very first clients I ever had that used predictive coding, I was explaining how you have to train you have the training set and the control set, and we calculate recall, and we have to train this many documents, and this is how it works. And they were like, wait. I thought this was going to be just like a button I push and all my docs are reviewed. And, it's, joked, I'm like, yeah, maybe in 50 years, right? You'll be able to just say what you want and be able to push a button and they'll find all of those. And that's where we're at now. And it's not going to go backwards. And we've already seen it go forwards really quickly. So that's the thing I'm excited about, not only in the eDiscovery space, but in literally everything we're doing. I use AI all day, every day for every problem I face. And it's good. That's the piece that's crazy.
For sure. Well, we are certainly excited at Purpose Legal to have all of the partners we have and all of the folks working on solving problems that our clients face every day with these AI models that help us deliver great results for them. And certainly enjoy counting you and the team at eDiscovery AI in that group. Thanks for spending a little bit of time with us today.
Thanks for having me. Hope to be back sometime soon.
All right. Thanks, Jim.